I'm a firm believer that soil health is human health. And if we start with the land first, it will it'll reap the fruits of our labor, and it's highly reciprocal.
Welcome to Home Green Homes Podcast. I am Izumi Tanaka, a green home advisor and a green realtor. Here I invite a variety of experts in the world of green homes and have conversations about how we can all live in healthy, resilient, and efficient homes. My guests provide insight in a wide range of topics, from designing, building, and living in green homes, purchasing or financing green homes and improvements, to how we can live to reduce the negative environmental impact from the way we live. My goal is to inspire and inform you about how we can make a difference in our own lives and our environment. Hello, everyone. This is Izumi Tanaka with Home Green Homes Podcast. I have invited a special guest today, Diego Torrelio, who is a CEO and founder of Circlefoot. And it's a very, very inspiring business that he has established himself with. So I'm going to have him tell us what Circlefoot does. But first, I'd like to know, Diego, about your little background and how you got to being a contractor and arborist.
Thanks, Izumi. Really appreciate the invitation to be on your podcast. It's a pleasure for sure. Um, I got into being a contractor and an arborist through food.
Oh,
Food got me to where I am today. My grandparents were farmers in South America, and they had a farm to table business where they really focused on raising poultry and vegetables, and had a little, restaurant. And, it was mostly for the community and for the family. And so at a young age, I was exposed to farming and gardening and um, spending time outdoors and having my hands in the ground, very exploratory at a young age. And, through my young adulthood, particularly after September 11th, 2001, I was kind of burdened by, the world's problems. I took it, you know, really seriously, and I had put all of that weight onto my shoulders. And so I was looking for solutions, and I was looking for a change, in the narrative that we constantly were fed from mainstream media. So I looked, kind of deeply inside and went back to my roots as a young farmer with my grandparents, and I came to the conclusion that everything could be solved within a garden or in a farm setting. And at the time, I didn't have any land, or I didn't have any exposure to it. I was really young and new to it for my region. So I found an outlet through natural foods
oh,
and a small store in Burlingame, a mom and pop natural food store called Earthbeam Natural Foods. And I spent nearly a decade there, managing the store, um, working closely with farmers, patronizing local growers and other farm producers to sell their products and their goods on our shelves. And I think through that process, um, of learning how to run a business and manage a store and work closely with farmers, that I wanted to do the actual work. As much as I love being a merchant and being a community center, or being inside of a community center where a lot of people come to you or to me for guidance and food. I wanted to do the growing, I wanted to do the building, and um, do it as a profession. So um, fortunately, the owner there was very, very attuned to my passions and desires to develop a business of some kind, and he helped support me through that entire process. So I'm extremely grateful for that. So I began working with other tradespeople that were local shoppers to the store, and got experienced through the doing. And a long story short, the licensing and the credentials and the business establishment kind of came through that experience at Earthbeam.
Mm.
And here I am today, um, with a successful contracting business, um, and moving into the real estate space, which seems like a really um, natural progression of my desires and passions for the land and for people. Um, Now, the arborist's certification, um, I just have fond memories of climbing trees as a child, being in awe by the larger redwoods of the peninsula and the redwood belt. Um, it just seemed natural for me to learn more about trees, and I mean everything that has to do with trees, the soil biology, the pruning, the care and the management, their locations, the species, everything that has to do with trees. I just really sank deeply into. So it's certainly a labor of love.
Mm, thank you. That is a beautiful, beautiful story. And so you created Circlefoot, which is a service that you create wellness and homes and habitats. So can
Mhm.
you tell me about the genesis of Circlefoot?
So that really strikes a heart chord, Azumi, because it was an expression of a journey that went through my ancestry to clean and cleanse the karma
Mm,
that runs very deep in my family. So in the development of my business, I was very attracted and attuned to indigenous wisdom, indigenous knowledge, indigenous land management practices. So I played the word game, in terms of like, what am I gonna name the business? And a lot of the inspiration also came from Earthbeam. you know um we all live on planet Earth. The Earth is a circle, or it's an orb. Everything's connected, and as humans, we have feet and we walk the land and have walked the land for millennia. And it was just a coin, like a phrase of or a word play of phrases that I would bounce off of friends and colleagues. But the real decision to name the business Circlefoot um, was a an experience that I had with my then at the time 7th or 8th month old son.
mm,
And he was living with his grandparents and his mother at the time, in Hollister, from where I lived in Burlingame, which was a good 100 miles away. And um, I would ride my bicycle to go see him all the way in Hollister. And I remember one day, um, I rode my bike to the house, and he greeted me when I got there. And there was a no shoe rule at the time in the house. So I put my shoes, or my sandals at the time, and I put them there by the door. And he wasn't walking just yet, but he was crawling. And we would play with this squishy earth ball. Um, and it was like a little planet in his hand. And so rather than coming to greet me when I arrived, he went straight to the earth ball,
oh, wow.
which was all the way on the other side of the room, and then crawled all the way to my sandals
Oh,
and put the earth ball on my sandals. And that's when I was like, Circlefoot.
oh,
It was like this epiphany that I had. And I have such a strong and special connection with my son that I know he was listening to me and tuning into what it was that I was growing inside. Um, so Circlefoot, the genesis of Circlefoot is really a story based on relationships and connection, ancestry, and relationship to space and place, um, permaculture,
Mhm.
regenerative principles and practices, um, land management, design, craftsmanship. Um, so it all kind of coalesced in that moment, and it
Mm.
was a really beautiful moment.
Mhm.
Um, and still going strong today.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
tell us some of the services that you offer. I know that you're on your website, which, by the way, your website is beautiful. I have been really
Thank you.
enjoying perusing your website. So, and one of the line that says ecologically regenerative outdoor and indoor living.
Mhm.
That's what you provide as a service, but what does that entail, and what does a ecologically regenerative outdoor indoor space living look like?
Mm. It's a great question. Um, we offer a slew or a suite of services that encompass indoor and outdoor spaces. So we offer general contracting services,
Mhm.
landscape design and contracting services, and arborist consultation services, um, along with indoor design services and project management services. So really anything that has to do with a home improvement
Mhm.
project, our company can address. And if it can't be readily executed by our interior group of staff members, then we tap into our ecosystem and network of subcontractors that we've worked with for, gosh, over a decade now.
Mhm.
So um, the the ecologically regenerative indoor and outdoor um, kind of holistic approach to a home really I believe is based on the relationships of the people that are on the land or in the space, and all of the other life around it,
Mhm.
and in the land as well, in the form of soil biology and um, all of that life. So we try and work through design to develop those indoor and outdoor spaces so that they're cohesive,
Mhm.
that they're natural, that they're interconnected, and that they flow
Mhm.
really well energetically, but also, through infrastructure. Like it needs to um, resonate with not only the unique characteristics of the land and the space, but the people that are there. So it's a very customized and introspective experience, I think.
Mm. I love that you said that it's an introspective experience. And
Mm,
your the reason that I'm talking to you today is that your company, your business really is, you know, uh, stands out. You stand out from other contractors, and there are many companies, businesses that might offer the same line of services,
mhm,
interior, exterior. But what makes you stand out is that you're really looking at the project from a holistic standpoint. And like you said, it's an introspective experience. And, a lot of times landscapes comes last in the projects, right? Like we know some other developers who are building, and that's the last thing they're thinking about, and that's what am I going to do, what am I going to put in my yard or front yard. And
mhm.
I know that your approach really is based on permaculture principles and, like you said, indigenous wisdom. Can you speak a little bit about that, how you approach a project when homeowners or property owners come to you? What is your first thing that you discuss with your clients?
Well, that's a great question. And I think a big reason why I've decided to become a general contractor.
Mm-hmm.
So I have more control in the process of development. Um, More importantly, have more insight um, and provisions around the planning and the design of the space. Because we feel like the indoor and the outdoor are completely interconnected, that they have to be addressed in parallel or concurrently through every aspect of the development of a project. So it's a pet peeve, honestly, Izumi, where I mean I've heard it a million times. The landscapers get the crumbs on a
Mm-hmm.
project, whether it's the budget or the resources or the schedule or what have you. They are looked at last in the grand scheme of things, and we feel like it's the exact opposite. It should be the first thing that we look at. We look at the land, we look at the space, we talk and converse with the people first, and all the way through the development of a project, particularly ones that are on new construction or renovations, that we address the landscape at the forefront so that we can develop more cohesion and more connections between the indoor and the outdoor. Um, and so our bread and butter is really ecological landscape systems, where we develop food systems holistically and bring them into the house for the home and the hearth, the kitchen. Um, and so that's I think the cornerstone of what we do, and a big reason why we've developed our business to be prime contractors instead of subcontractors.
Right. So are you seeing in the market out there in your business,
Mm.
people are more getting attuned to the concept that you offer, or how do you reach your clients? How do you reach your audience?
Um, we're not one to advertise too much because we feel like the work speaks for itself.
Mm-hmm.
The process speaks for itself. So we do have, I think, a nice website and a nice web presence, and a lot of networking, and we've spent a lot of time in the Bay Area, nearly 15 years. So little by little, we've developed a cohort of other contractors, partners, architects, engineers, gardeners, designers, and everybody in between. So I think that over time has really solidified our company in the marketplace.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and it's pretty I'd say it's pretty prevalent within the trades here in our market, where uh, it's fix and flip, turn and burn. Let's get on to the next project. A lot of the details get marginalized because of the budget and the schedule constraints. And so we want to slow things down a little bit, be more intentional
Right.
with our work, focus on the quality and the craftsmanship of the space, and to do it through a process that brings the client or the owners into the game. I love to say that our projects should be a source of energy and not a sink. And there are so many stories that I hear from owners, whether they're property managers or um, realtors or folks who literally own real property, that they always have some horror story to
Yeah.
share about their contracting experiences, and that should be changed. And I know Adam and I have spoken to length about that, and changing the process. So I'm a firm believer that soil health is human health, and if we start with the land first, it will it'll reap the fruits of our labor, and it's highly reciprocal.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
Yeah. So are you finding that more and more people are finding out how you work, unlike some of the other landscaping contractors or general contractors? People are getting to be more attuned to the type of process that you are offering.
Yeah, I think for the most part, we get a lot of calls from folks who they didn't have a good experience with their designer, or they're in the middle of a project and they need to be saved. And so it's I think a solid mix of that and young families,
Yeah.
um people who are just moving into the area, that just bought a home, that are really excited about renovating the spaces that they're spending a tremendous amount of time in.
Mhm.
um and along with being available to the open space trust of our area and the resource conservation district of our area, we've got a pretty great we've got pretty great access to all sorts of projects.
Mhm.
And that's really great at keeping us busy. So
Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
So from your perspective, Diego, what should homeowners be thinking about when they are actually thinking of renovating or buying? What would be your tips for people to consider? What's most
Yeah.
important?
Don't do any work. Just stand there
Mm,
and observe the space for a little while. I think we are all so eager to get going on doing things, that we don't take the time to not do things and to just simply observe the space, to take in the nuances of the landscape or the home, where, if you were to move at a quicker pace, these little nuances and these little details, they get marginalized and they're not assimilated.
mhm,
So I think a good you know piece of advice that I would give out to folks would be to take your time, you know and really just observe the space, and do your due diligence,
mhm,
and if that means you have to shop around for a contractor for 6 months just to get a quote that
mhm,
you find is reasonable and from a reputable company that you have vouched they do good work, then I think it's totally worth the time.
yeah.
I really do, because it'll save a lot of gray hair and a lot of dollars.
That's true. That's true. So now I know that you are almost getting ready to become a licensed real estate agent. So
Mm,
I'm just really curious, what is your vision of, having a real estate license and being the successful contractor, landscape designer?
mm.
What is it that you envision doing in this space?
Oh boy. It's well, I think first of all, I think it's a natural progression of my craft and my practice. Um, Wanting to help, wanting to be a go-giver. Is because I've been a go-getter for a really long time, and I want to be able to provide a service that uh, takes the highly transactional space of real estate and turns
Mhm,
it into something that's more human and more more connected or connective to the land and to the home.
mhm,
So along with wanting to develop generational wealth for our family, um, it seems like a natural thing for me to take on. I love homes. I love houses. I love indoor and outdoor spaces. And I love doing business. I
Yeah.
love I love doing business. And if I can kind of tie them all together, then I'd be really, really, really happy at the end of the day.
Right.
And there's just a lot of opportunity, I think, within the real estate space to change the narrative and to disrupt it a little.
Hmm. And as you know, I am a member of Latitude Regenerative Real Estate, and we consider ourselves disruptors,
Yes.
obviously in the business. Then, so what is your vision of how you could integrate the, what you do at Circlefoot and into this development or real estate?
I'm particularly very interested right now in creative financing.
Mm,
Seller and owner financing,
mhm,
lease options, wraps, subject to, and all these other deals out there they're out there, but
mhm,
they're not through the mainstream,
mhm,
lending communities. So, for us here in the Bay Area, we're in San Mateo County, and our median home price I think is about 1.4, 1.5 million.
mhm,
And in order to afford that, you have to, with a W-2, you have to make around 180 to $190,000 a year. And so that takes, I think there's a big polarity there.
yes.
And it's difficult for first-time home buyers to get into the market. And I'm sure San Francisco, along with New York and maybe Miami, and some of these other markets, they're highly desirable to live
Mhm,
in.
mhm,
It's a really good, healthy place to be. So, along the way of not only representing buyers and sellers as a real estate salesperson, moving into real estate investments and becoming uh, a resource for those first-time home buyers and the people that are trying to get their foot in the door in the market but can't seem to do it because of the linear kind of archaic model of buying a home.
mhm.
So I think that's highly based on relationships and trust and integrity, and some creativity,
Yeah.
and looking at things a little differently. And I've always been one to go against the grain. So
Mhm.
I find a lot of opportunity here to kind of take that and run with it. And hopefully, those who are catching on can um, help me and network with me and make this more mainstream.
Right. When you say make this more mainstream, it's like, what's already established in this whole real estate investment world of, like you said, the time, schedule limitation and the budget. Um, but in order for us to integrate all the work that you are doing with Circlefoot or regenerative, construction, landscaping, and all of that is so lacking in
Hmm.
that real estate market. And it is really up to us to start creating those spaces and creating those properties, right?
It's true. It's so true. And I like to use the metaphor of voting.
Hmm.
When we're so at wit's end with a dual party system or a two-party system, it's like you're picking the lesser of the evils
Hmm.
almost. And that's when you just put your foot down and say, I'm gonna run. I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna pick up, I'm gonna be the change. And that's the go-getting attitude that I really want to emphasize here, because when something's not working and nobody's changing it, well, you got to get up and you got to do it.
Hmm.
Otherwise, nobody's going to do it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So Circle Foot is going to be expanding.
To a degree, I say, it's a 500-year plan I have, Zumi, and hopefully, it endures time.
Yes, indeed. Well,
Mhm.
thank you so much, Diego. I would like you to tell us where people can find you.
Absolutely. They can find us at circlefoot.com, and they can call us directly at 650-740-4778, or they can email us at info@circlefoot.com.
And I highly recommend visiting his website. It's beautiful and you will get inspired.
Yeah. Thank
Thank you so much, Diego. This was
Thanks,
Izumi
Izumi.
Tanaka with Home Green Homes podcast. And until the next episode.